All right, so if you're an educator or a parent, really anyone who works with kids, you know the feeling. Classroom management can feel like this constant uphill battle. But what if I told you that one of the absolute best tools for a calmer, more productive classroom wasn't some complicated new system? What if it was just a simple, tiny switch in how we talk? Well, that's exactly what we're digging into today, the incredible power of positive framing. I mean, does this sound familiar? You feel like you're just a broken record of, stop that, don't do this, no, no, no. It's like you're constantly putting out little fires. And by the end of the day, you feel less like a teacher and more like well, a cop. It is absolutely exhausting. And you know what? It's often not even that effective. Okay, this right here, this is the whole idea in one perfect example. Think about it. When you say stop running, you're only telling a kid what not to do. It stops one action, but it leaves this void. Now what? But let's use walking feet, please. Boom. You've given them the exact replacement behavior. It's clear, it's actionable, and it feels so much less like a confrontation, right? That's the essence of positive framing. So let's get into it. We're calling this the language switch. It's all about making a conscious choice to move away from just telling kids what to stop doing and instead giving them really clear, positive directions. So let's give this a proper name, positive framing. It really is just that, shifting from those negative commands that stop a behavior to positive directives that start a behavior. And that last part is key. You're giving them a clear, specific, and actionable replacement for what they were doing before. Let's look at a couple more, because these are great. Stop talking. I mean, that's pretty vague, right? But we're in silent work now clearly defines the expectation for the whole room. Or how about, don't forget your name? That kind of puts the burden on the student to avoid a mistake. But first step is to write your name at the top. See? Now it's just part of a successful routine. You're basically handing them a little roadmap to get it right. You know, I love this analogy. It really gets to the heart of the identity shift that happens here. When you're just shouting stop and don't, you really do feel like the behavior police. You're just an enforcer. But when you start using positive framing, you become a behavior coach. You're guiding, you're teaching, you're building skills. It completely changes your role in the best way possible. Okay, so why does this work so well? I mean, is it just about sounding nicer? Nope. There is some really fascinating psychology going on under the hood that makes this little switch so incredibly powerful. This is a really core concept for how our brains are wired. When you tell someone to stop doing something, their brain actually has to focus on that very thing you don't want them to do. It's like saying, don't think about a pink elephant. But when you give the brain a new action to start, something specific, like let's have our eyes on the speaker, well, that's just way more efficient. You're not building a roadblock, you're paving a whole new path. Now, this approach also helps us sidestep a really common mental trap we all fall into. It's called the fundamental attribution error. Basically, when we see a student off task, our knee-jerk reaction is to think it's about their character. Ugh, they're being defiant. We almost never stop to think that maybe, just maybe, it's about the situation, that they're simply confused about what to do. And here it is. This is the antidote. This one little mantra: assume confusion over defiance. Seriously, let that sink in. Assume confusion over defiance. If you can make that your default setting, everything changes. Your response it automatically shifts from a confrontation to a moment of instruction. You stop seeing a bad kid and you start seeing a confused kid who just needs a little clarity. It's a total game changer. Okay, so we've got the what and the why down. Let's talk about the how. How do you actually do this in the heat of the moment? Well, here's a super practical playbook with 3 golden rules to get you started. These are the 3 pillars you can lean on. First, assume the best. Second, correct with anonymity. And third, build momentum. Put them together, and you have this really respectful and super effective system for correction. Let's break each one down real quick. First up, assume the best. This is where we put that confusion over defiance idea into practice. You're consciously making the choice to give the student the benefit of the doubt. It's a small mental tweak, but it makes sure your response is helpful and constructive, not angry and confrontational. And that preserves the relationship, which is everything. Number 2, correct with anonymity. Look, nobody likes to be called out in front of their friends. It just triggers shame and makes people defensive. The goal is to correct the behavior, not to humiliate the student. So instead, you use those quiet, nonverbal cues. A little hand gesture, a finger to the lips, the classic teacher look. This gives the student what's called plausible anonymity. They know you saw them, but they can fix it without losing face. It's all about preserving their dignity. And finally, rule number 3, build momentum. This one has 2 awesome parts. First, narrate the positive. So instead of pointing out who's off task, you publicly praise who's on task. Wow, I love how Maria already has her book open. It's brilliant. You're using social proof to show everyone else what to do. The second part is to frame things as a challenge. Let's see which table can be ready to go first. This taps into that natural human desire to compete and win, and it creates this awesome positive peer pressure. You know, this chart really helps put it all into perspective. Positive framing is an incredible tool for phase 2, for correction. But you have to remember it works best when it's built on a solid foundation, phase 1, where you've already established crystal clear expectations. If you don't have that foundation, you're just playing whack-a-mole. But with it, you're reinforcing a strong structure and building an amazing classroom culture. So, as we start to wrap this up, I really want to drive this point home. This is so much more than just a clever way to phrase things. We're talking about something way deeper here, the very architecture of your classroom relationships. Let me just say that again, because it's so important. This is not just a language trick. It is a tool for building what's called relational architecture. I mean, just think about that phrase for a second. Every single time you use positive framing, you are laying another brick in the emotional foundation of your classroom. You are literally designing the structure of trust and respect between you and your students. And this is the big picture. This is the goal. When you consistently communicate that you believe in your students' ability to get it right, you build their confidence, their self-efficacy. You create a culture where feedback feels like help, not a put down. And slowly but surely, you shift the whole dynamic away from you controlling everything to your students learning to regulate themselves. You create a place where kids feel safe, respected, and like they truly belong. So I'll leave you with a challenge. Think about your own day, your own phrases. What is that one stop or don't command that you find yourself saying over and over again? And what's one small, positive, actionable phrase you could use to replace it, starting this week? Because that one tiny switch, it really might just change everything.